Okay, so let me start by thanking the organizers for giving me this opportunity to talk about my work, and I'll be talking about block correction to backward group. Okay, so this work is based on a series of papers, but mostly on the paper by Amit Ghosh and myself, which appeared in CQG 2015. So I have to first explain what is meant by block correction to black hole entropy. Black hole entropy is familiar to everyone. The Bekenstein-Hawking expression for the entropy is S equal to A by 4 times LP squared. So it has an H cross in the denominator, and therefore if there is a correction which is of the order of H cross to the power 0, that will be a correction. This is 1 by H cross, so the next term will be H cross to the power 0, so that will be a correction. Now these corrections cannot have any powers of the area, and they have to involve a log of the area if the area is involved. So that is a log correction. Okay, so log corrections have been talked about by many people. So let me start by giving a brief history. So the first people to talk about log corrections to the black hole entropy were Ramesh Kaul and Partha Majumdar, both of whom are sitting here. So they had a TRL in 2000 in which they identified the log correction as minus 3 by 2 log of the area of the horizon. Very soon, Carlip wrote a paper in CQG 2000 where he also justified, where he also argued for the same correction, minus 3 by 2 log A. So this paper, this derivation of minus 3 by 2 log A was based on what is called SU2 formulation of loop quantum gravity. So Carlip did not talk about loop quantum gravity, but he said that there are general conformal field theoretic arguments which lead to minus 3 by 2 log A. I'll give some indication about Carlip's arguments later. But before that, some more of history. So this was the SU2 formulation of loop quantum gravity, and this was some conformal field theory applied to the near horizon symmetries of the black hole. Okay, so this is the first thing. This is the second thing. Then we myself did some work on log corrections, and instead of working on the SU2 formulation of loop quantum gravity, we worked on the so-called U1 formulation of loop quantum gravity, and that led to a different correction, and that was minus half log of A. So this was done by Amit Ghosh and myself in 2005. So these were much later than these works, these pieces of work. It was done by once again by Amit Ghosh and myself, and we obtained the correction minus half log A, again in loop quantum gravity, but this was the so-called U1 formulation of loop quantum gravity. So what I want to say now is that loop quantum gravity, whether you use the SU2 formulation or the U1 formulation, gives some other corrections, not exactly these corrections, but of course this is because we take a somewhat different limit than what was taken by these people or even us in the earlier work. So we are going to give different results. At present, today I am going to present different results, not minus 3 by 2 log A, nor minus half log A, but something which actually does not involve A. Okay, so let me start with the SU2 formulation of loop quantum gravity and indicate why or how we get a different correction. So they obtained, these people as well as we obtained a different correction. They obtained these corrections by taking some limit, but I shall today talk about different. So I'll explain what the limit is. Okay, so first let me start from the starting expression written down by Ramesh Pal and Partha Majumdar in 2000. So that is the SU2 formulation, as I explained. Okay, so first let me give a brief plan on the top. So I'll talk about SU2 formulation in more detail. Then I will talk about the U1 formulation in more detail. And after that, I hope to talk about Hartley's theory in brief. I will not discuss the details of Hartley's theory, but I will talk about that in brief. Okay, so these are the things which I want to discuss. So first of all, as I said, I have to start with the SU2 formulation of loop quantum gravity, which was discussed in the paper of Ramesh Pal and Partha Majumdar. So they wrote down an expression for the number of states. So let me just keep that expression. So that expression looks like this: 2 by A plus 2 sigma A sine square A phi by K plus 2. I'll explain the variables. A equal to 1 to K plus 1 pi P of sine A phi J plus 1 by K plus 2 plus sine A phi by K plus 2. So this is the expression from which they started. So let me explain what these things are. So here, this product over T is a product of the punctures. So the idea is that there are lots of punctures on the horizon, and with each puncture, some spin Jp is associated. So there are punctures on the horizon. So this phi p stands for the product over all the punctures, and Jp is a spin associated with the puncture labeled by P. So Jp can take any of the values: half, 1, 3 by 2, 2 and so on. And A is a variable which goes from 1 to K plus 1. So K is another number. What is K? K is the level of the Chern-Simons theory which is involved, but K is also the classical area of the horizon. In special units, and the units which are used here are such that 4 pi gamma LP square equal to 1. So these are special units. If you don't want to use these units, then everything should be multiplied by this quantity. That is not done. So LP square is the square of length, and gamma is the imaging parameter. So that's the parameter which enters the theory. And K is the classical area of the horizon in these units. Okay, so these punctures give some area to the horizon, and the total eigenvalue of the area operator. So in this theory, the area is an operator, whereas this K is the classical area of the horizon. There is something called the quantum area or the area eigenvalue of the horizon, and this A is given by some overall punctures, and each puncture contributes root over Jp plus 1 to the total area. So Jp is the spin, which may be half, 1 or any of these things associated with the puncture P. And this is the area eigenvalue of the area operator. This is the quantum area, whereas this K is the classical area. Okay, so this is a complicated expression, And one of the ways of simplifying this expression is to take the limit when k goes to infinity. So this is what was done by Ramesh and Partho. So they took the limit k going to infinity. If you take the limit k going to infinity, then this sum can be approximated by an integral. So in this case, n can be written as, in the limit n can be written as 2 pi k integral dA from 0 to k. It goes from 1 to k plus 1. So you can go from 0 to k sine square a pi by k. Okay, it's actually k plus 2, but k plus 2 can be, so maybe I can keep on writing k plus 2. No, k will go to infinity. So a pi by k, and okay. On top of that, I make the further simplification that only Jp equal to half will be considered. So as I say, each puncture has some spin associated with that. So if you want to be more general, then all kinds of spins have to be considered, but for simplicity we suppose that all the spins are half. So we shall replace this Jp by half, so that is 2Jp plus 1. The number of states associated with spin half is 2, so this will become simply 2. So this becomes sine 2a pi by k plus 2, which divided by sine a pi by k plus 2 will give you 2 cos a pi by k plus 2. So this becomes 2 cos a pi by k. And now since I have assumed that each puncture has the same value of Jp, this factor will simply be multiplied. The same factor will be multiplied by only multiplied for each puncture, so that you will get this thing raised to the power, which is equal to the total number of punctures. So let me for simplicity denote that also by p. So here p was being used as a label for the puncture, but now I use p as a total number of punctures, because all punctures have the spin half. So it's best to write a number denoting the number of punctures, and I call that p. So this can be simplified. So if you make a change of variable and replace a pi by k by x.
So I have a question.
Yes, yes.
What is the measure that is changing this sums into the?
This quantity a goes from 1 to k plus 1 in units of 1. So if you take the limit when k goes to infinity, this will go, this a goes, this is sum over a and varies by 1, so it naturally goes over to integral dA.
But as in the ordinary integral, there is some condition like NH equal to constant. Something is kept constant while you are taking something going to 0.
You can always multiply this by delta A, where delta A is equal to 1. This you can imagine to be multiplied by delta A, where delta A is equal to 1. So now that delta A is going to is replaced by dA. Okay, so if you if you replace the variable a pi by k, you are going to get pi integral 0 to pi by 2 dx sine square x 2 to the p cos p of x. So this 2 to the power p can be taken outside, and this is a standard integral, and this has the value 2 to the p plus p by 2, approximate value 2 to the p plus 3 by 2, p to the minus 3 by 2, and then 5 to the minus a half. So you see that it contains a factor 2 to the p. When you take the log of n to get the entropy, this 2 to the p log 2 to the p will give you p log 2, which is proportional to p, and p is proportional to the area. So when you put all jp is equal to half, this becomes 2p times root over p by 4. So this is half and this is half plus 1, that is 3 by 2. So that is, this root over jj plus 1 becomes root over 3 by 4, and this sum over p becomes equal to a factor of p, because each sum has the same value. So this is proportional to the number of counters p, and therefore the total area is proportional to p. So the leading term in log n is p log 2, which is proportional to p, and therefore it is proportional to the area. So that is the leading log term, the leading term a by 4h cross g in the entropy. But there is also a term p to the minus 3 by 2. So when you take that log, it will give you minus 3 by 2 log p. So that is the log correction. Minus p is proportional to a. So minus 3 by 2 log p is also minus 3 by 2 log a. So this is the minus 3 by 2, which was obtained by Ramesh Kaul and Dr. Majumdar. So this is responsible for minus 3 by 2 log of a. But as I said, this is obtained in the limit when k goes to infinity. What is meant by k going to infinity? K is the classical area. So here we have taken the classical area to infinity and considered the quantum eigenvalues of the area A to be finite. But it is better to keep the classical area finite. So suppose we consider k to be finite. Then of course it's more difficult, and
but the k doesn't appear in the area.
K doesn't appear in area. K is a different thing. K is the classical area. Area is the area eigenvalue. So these are two different things. There is the area eigenvalue, and K doesn't appear in the area, but K is a different observable. It's not an observable. It's a parameter of the theory. It's a classical area. So suppose we keep the K finite and see what happens.
This k is the eigenvalue of the a, or what?
This K is the K which is appearing here. That K has not been changed. I mean, in this calculation, K was taken to infinity. So now I am not taking K to infinity, I am keeping K finite and trying to see what happens. So if K is finite,
the question is, you have written the formula for area. That's the
area,
total,
this is the
total area.
This is the total area eigenvalue.
Right.
This area.
So is there a manner in which I can talk about the classical limit of that code?
No. This area has no connection with the classical area. This classical area is a parameter of the theory, and it has no connection, no obvious connection with A.
But it has no connection with the black hole horizon area as well?
It is a classical area of the horizon.
Classical area of the horizon.
But here this is a completely different thing. This is the area. This is the eigenvalue of the area operator, which does not involve K.
But this does not appear in the analysis, this classical area of the horizon.
It appears in the analysis in this form. It appears in K plus 2, and this sum of this K plus 2 appears in many places, and the sum over A goes from 1 to K plus 1. That is how
this k.
that is this K. This K is the same as the classical area. So this K is the classical area of the horizon, and this A, which is proportional to P, is the eigenvalue of the area operator. Okay, suppose we keep K finite and try to see what happens. If once again we put JP equal to half, and in that case we see that N is equal to, okay, I shall once again assume that K is large. K is finite, but K can be taken to be large, not going to infinity, so I shall replace K plus 2 by K. So it is 4 by, well, no, not yet 4. I have to explain what is meant, why I am writing 4. Okay, so here you have this expression, and in this expression I simply have to replace JP by half, so that there are several terms. So this term once again becomes 2 cos A pi by K to the power P. That is what will happen. But there is sum, and the sum goes from A equal to 1 to A equal to K plus 1. Now, okay, let me write this. So what I've done is to replace this jp by half and this phi t produces the pth power of 2 cos a pi by k plus 2. So this becomes sine 2 theta and divided by sine theta, so that is 2 cos theta, theta is a pi by k plus 2, so this is what happens. Now this is a sum over many terms and each term depends on a and the sum is over a. Now you see that p occurs in the p to which the area is proportional occurs in the exponent. Now for large p, what will happen is that in this sum only that term will dominate, where this thing which is raised to the power p has the highest value. So suppose you have things like 2 to the p plus 3 to the p. Actually you don't have 3 to the p, but suppose you have things like this. Suppose you have a series 2 to the p plus 3 to the p plus 4 to the p. Then for large p, only this 4 to the p will be relevant. These things will be exponentially suppressed. So for large p, what we can do is to approximate this series. It's not an infinite series, it's a finite series, a finite number of terms when k is finite, and we can approximate this finite sum by the dominant term, which is the one which has the highest number here raised to the power. So when does this number become the highest? It has the highest value when this a pi by k plus 2 becomes the smallest. It is not, so this a is not allowed to reach the value 0. That's why it will never be equal to 2. It will always be less than 2. But the smallest value of a is 1, and k plus 1 is also equivalent, because if you write k plus 1 pi by k plus 2, you will see that at least for even p, it will give the same value. So the two terms, when a equal to 1 and a equal to k plus 1, the terms will give the dominant term in the sum. So this can be written as 4 by k plus 2 sine square. So a is being set equal to 1, sine square pi by k plus 2 into 2 cos pi by k plus 2 raised to the power. So this is in the approximation which is valid for large p. For large p, the other terms which involve higher values of a, like a equal to 2 or equivalently k and such things, they are ignored. Okay. So this for large k can be somewhat simplified. So this k plus 2 can be written as k. Sine square pi by k plus 2 can be written as pi square by k square, so that this becomes 4 pi squared by k cube, and then exponential of p log 2. P log 2 is coming 2 to the power p, exponential of p log 2, and then plus p log cos pi by q. So this is roughly equal to 4 pi square by k cube exponential of p times log 2 minus.
The person,
Yes.
this is getting blocked from this side.
Okay. Okay. So by the periodic boundary condition, I come to this side of the board. Antiperiodic will be a minus sign. So that becomes 4 pi squared by 8 cube, and then exponential of p times log 2, and then log cos is something less than equal to 1, and log cos is a negative thing, so you can see that it becomes equal to minus 2 pi squared by minus pi squared by 2k squared minus pi 4 by 12k 4 minus pi 6 by, hey, these are irrelevant, but anyway, and so on. like this. So you see that, so this is the leading term. You can also calculate the non-leading terms in this series. There is a series here. These things come from the leading term where A is equal to 1 or K plus 1. If you take A equal to 2, you will get non-leading terms where these coefficients should be somewhat
We have
different.
written cos pi by
Log cos pi by K, yes.
that expansion is for pi by cos pi by k or log cos.
Log cos. So cos can be expanded. After expansion of cos, you can take the log. So log cos pi by K will give you these things.
So cos pi.
Source is 1 minus.
Yes. So you can look at that. You can consider the other terms, which is the next term. I've ignored several terms. I've kept only the dominant term. If you consider the other terms, then these things will be suppressed. You will have a 4 times this. Here you will have some 6. This will be. So these factors will change somewhat.
What is
In
N?
the-
I'm sorry. What is N?
N is the number of states.
What happens if N is 2?
Which N?
That small n cos pi over N.
K. This is K. It is K.
K is the classical area of the horizon. K is large. K is not large.
So it's classical area in units of Planck area.
Yeah. In
So
specific
this
units.
is a large number.
Yes. In units of this 4 pi gamma LP square.
So there's a choice of units parameter as well.
Yes. Okay, so what the point I'm trying to make is that, so these terms reduce log 2, so that will reduce the, that will determine the leading term, because the leading term is obtained when you take the log. When you take the log, you get a p multiplied by all these things, and this p is proportional to a, so the leading term in the expression for the entropy will involve these things, log 2 minus these terms. But the log correction will come from this factor, this p factor outside the exponential, and because it's 1 by k cube, the log correction comes out to be minus 3 log k.
What happens if k is 2?
No, k is taken to be large. We have made an assumption. We have made an
You did not make that
expansion.
assumption here. This calculation does not seem to use.
No, k is a classical area, so I have assumed k to be somewhat large, so that is
What is the meaning of large? Because everything seems blowing up and k is equal to 2.
So here it is actually k plus 2. So
I am talking
In the-
about the last thing.
no, in the original expression, the thing that was happening was sin a pi by k plus 2. So here a is supposed to be less than equal to k plus 2. So that this will not actually.
Yes,
That's
you
not good.
started k is large.
This expression,
The
this
So
last-
I made a power series expansion of cosine. I made a power series expansion
So
of
K
cosine.
plus 2 has been replaced by K.
that is what I am asking. Why did
So
you do
only for
it?
large.
Why did you
K
do
has
it?
No,
been large compared
originally you had k plus 2.
compared to 2 definitely.
You started with
Is it
k plus
Large area. Large area.
large classical area.
The Chern-Simons level, isn't it?
No.
It's also the Chern-Simons level.
So why should it be large? I don't
No, it is also the classical area of the horizon. It should not be large. It need not be large. I am assuming that it is large. I am just trying to see how it behaves when. No, in the original calculation, k was taken to infinity. I
I can
am.
ask the question, you are trying to understand the properties of large black holes. So that's the question. How large is it?
See, originally k was taken to infinity. I am making some k somewhat smaller than infinity, but we have not yet reached k equal to 2.
50 minus yes.
So the log correction arising from this 1 by k cube factor is simply minus 3 log k. So this does not involve the area eigenvalue k, it does not involve t, and it involves only k. It comes from this factor, it involves only the classical area of the horizon or also equivalent to the level of the Chern-Simons theorem. Okay, so this is the SU2 result.
So it's not minus 3 by 2. It's only minus 3.
Minus 3, but the more important thing is that it's not A, it's K, which is a completely different thing.
We said classical
It
A.
is K. K is the classical area of the horizon. Minus 3 by 2 over minus 3, much more important thing that is K, which is different from A. Even the argument is changing. The argument is not A, but K. Had it been P minus 3 log P, it would be something different. But it's not minus 3 log P, it's minus 3 log K. Okay, so this is what happens if you look at the SU2 formulation of loop quantum gravity, and instead of taking k going to infinity, you take k to be large. We have done similar calculations with the U1 formulation. So in the U1 formulation, what happens is that once again, for simplicity, we should consider only spin half. So in the U1 formulation,
This K, wouldn't this be some maximal value of A?
A and K are totally unrelated. A is
No, in general they are unrelated, but if you look at the maximum number of punctures that you can put in, isn't that?
no, that is not related to K. I mean, at least in the papers, I have not seen any connection with K.
But that would be, I mean, that could be bounded, right? If you have a finite size classical horizon, then the number of punctures you can put in will be bounded to some degree.
No, the size, one doesn't consider the size of a puncture. Punctures can be of
Punctures, but no, the number of punctures.
no, there is no limit on the number of punctures. I mean, I am not aware of any limit.
Partha, just one question. You have both these calculations make use of the same expression.
Same starting expression.
Same
Starting expression, but the limit is different.
No, that's okay. But what I'm saying, if k is large and k is going to infinity, these
No,
two
K-
should
okay.
not lead to different physics. I mean, that's my point. The values
No,
could be
here
slightly
K
different.
is not so. Here K is not infinite. That if you take K to infinity, you get one value. The question is the log correction. So when you take K to infinity, it depends only on P. It cannot depend on K because K has already been taken to infinity, and in that limit, the log correction, the factor apart from 2 to the power P is P to the minus K by 2. If you do not take K going to infinity, then apart from P log 2, you get some terms dependent on K which appear, which serve to diminish the value of log 2. Apart from that, you have extra factor of 1 by K cube. That is the difference.
Why is the limit of this going, k going to infinity? See, it's not this.
So that is because here we have assumed that if, in the limit of K going to infinity, all the terms have to contribute. I mean, here there is a series, there is a finite number, there is a finite series. When you take K to infinity, it becomes an infinite series, so that there are complications associated with
So,
that.
while taking the limit, at the exact limit, there is different result.
No, see, this is correct. There is no doubt about this.
No, I'm
but
not-
this appears
I'm not
only
asking
when you
that
take the
question.
K. Yes.
So obviously, as you increase more and more value of k,
Yes.
that all other terms which you are dropping here,
Yes, yes.
which have been contributing to make this,
That's right.
ignoring them is also incorrect.
No, you can check in
Is
this.
that all? We are not doing anything
It
wrong.
seems to me that the limit and the sum don't commute.
Yeah, that's
That is all that's being put here.
the two limits lead to different results. So
Here I have
How
not
do you
taken
know
the
that you
limit.
can take the limit of large k out? It's outside the sum.
No, it is not good to take the limit of large K after
Both the aspects.
after truncating the series. It's a series. There is a finite number of terms. So this truncation can be done only for finite K. K equals
You
to
said that
infinity.
this final answer is for large k.
This is large K in the sense it is a finite K, large but finite. Large in the sense K is much bigger than 1, but K is still finite.
Large and infinity have to be distinguished.
Yes.
So there are other terms. I mean, here you can calculate the subleading terms. In the subleading terms, you will get some other factors, but those factors do not change this KQ. I mean, I have looked at the subleading terms, and all of them still have the KQ. These things change, and there are some extra factors outside the exponential, but they don't affect the KQ.
But basically, the two results should differ by something that goes to 0 when you take the limit k going to infinity.
Just we go to zero.
That go to 0.
No, that is because I am truncating the series. It's a series I have taken. I have taken only one term. So if you want to take the limit k going to infinity honestly, then you have to consider other terms, which I have not done. Which cannot be done, man. The only way to, I mean, there is no simple way of summing this series. It is, I suppose it's possible mathematically for the simple case when all spins are equal to half to sum this series. I do not.
Like normally for infinite series, what you do is you define some SK and
Yes,
then
yes,
plus some remainder.
Yeah, yeah.
And that remainder is not going to 0.
That is no, no. I have not estimated the remainder. That I agree. If you take, if you think, no, I have looked at the next correction also. I have looked at this first term. I have looked at the second term. So this is the highest term in that series. So I have looked at the highest term and I have looked at the next lowest term. Next
But the
lowest term.
remainder is a difference between this answer and that answer. This is only the.
Yes, yes,
and
sure,
it's not
sure,
going to zero.
Sure,
That's
sure.
what I'm saying.
So this is not an answer. I don't. This
No, no. That is for finite
Maybe
k.
that answer is wrong.
For finite k. For finite k. It's not a series at all. It's a finite number of terms. For a finite number of terms, you can consider only the largest term.
No, you can consider.
Yes.
But when you want to take the limit, when you do that, there
No, no,
are
we are not taking
infinite number of terms which are not dominant, but still can contribute in that infinity.
Yes, they can. They can.
It's like infinity into 0 can be a finite.
Yes,
That's all.
that's what is happening. That is what is happening. Okay, so
What is the sunset?
how much time do I have?
Another 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Okay, so I briefly say something about the U1 formulation. In the U1 formulation, once again, one puts spin half on all punctures, on P punctures. Here, the number of states is to be calculated not by an explicit formula like that, but by imposing the condition that sigma m is equal to 0 mod k by 2. So by m I mean the projection. So for spins you know that there are two variables, the j and the m. So j is equal to half. So m, the projection quantum number, has the value plus minus half. So for each puncture, each of these punctures, there is a projection which takes the value either minus half or plus half, and its physical state will be such that sum of these m's on the different punctures should be equal to 0 mod of k by 2. So the same classical area k enters here. So, and it enters through this condition sigma m equal to 0 mod k by 2. So if you take the limit when k goes to infinity, then this mod k by 2 can be dropped and sigma m equal to 0 is the condition. So when k goes, so if k goes to infinity, the condition is simply sigma m equal to 0, in which case this can be easily obtained by putting p by 2 up spins and p by 2 down spins. So if you do that, the number of states is simply p factorial by p by 2 factorial, p by 2 factorial, which from the Stirling approximation will give you 2 to the p times root over 2 pi p, where p is the number of punctures once again. So this 2 to the power p will give you, when you take the log, so this is the number of states. So when you take the log of n, you get a factor of p log 2, which is the total number of states, and p is proportional to a. So this will give you the leading area term, and because of presence of 1 by root p, this will give you a log correction which is minus half log p, or equivalently minus half log a, because p is proportional to a, as I indicated earlier. So this in the U1 formulation leads to a log correction of minus half log a, provided k is taken to infinity. If instead you take k to be finite, then you have to be more careful. Then you consider sigma m to be equal to some capital M. If you take sigma m equal to capital M, then instead of p factorial or p by 2 factorial and p by 2 factorial, what we have to do is, what we have to calculate is p factorial divided by p by 2 plus m factorial, p by 2 minus m factorial, and this is approximately equal to 2 to the p root over 2 by pi p, the previous expression, multiplied by exponential of minus 4 m square by p. So now the condition is that sigma m equal to 0 mod k by 2. That means this capital M is allowed to have the values k by 2 multiplied by 0 or some integer. So what you do is to set m equal to r times k by 2, where r is equal to 0 plus minus 1 plus minus 2 and so on, and then sum over r. So when you sum these quantities over r, you get something like sigma r e to the minus 4, r 4 goes away, r square is square by t. Now this sum can again be approximated by a Gaussian integral, and this Gaussian integral gives you the value root over pi t by k. Therefore, the number of states is obtained by multiplying this 2 to the power t and so on by this quantity, so that the number of states, sorry, this k is inside the square root, this is actually k square, pi p by k square, so that if you multiply this by that factor, you see that the root p in the denominator cancels the root p in the numerator, and you are left with something like 2 to the p times some constant divided by t. There is some factor of root 2 or something, whatever, you get 1 by k. So the 1 by root t goes away and you are left with 1 by k, which means that the log correction is no longer minus half log a, and the log correction is minus log t. So you notice that the two log corrections were obtained in the case of finite k are minus 3 log k for the SU2 formulation and minus log k for the U1 formulation, and interestingly the ratio of these two is once again 3:1, because they are in the ratio of the log corrections for infinite k also, because there you had minus 3 by 2 and minus half, and here also minus 3 and minus 1, so the ratio is correct. I mean the ratio is the same in both cases, but in both cases instead of a log a term you are getting a log k term. Okay, finally just in 1 or 2 seconds, or not seconds, okay, 1 or 2 minutes, I'll say something about what Carl Lipp did. So Carl Lipp generalized Gardy's formula for the number of states in a conformal field theory, and he ended up with an expression for the number of states. I write only the final result. So Carl Lipp ended up with something which is of the form T beta by kappa. This is kappa and not k, times LP by root k times T by exponential of k by 4 LP square. Okay, so let me explain his rotation. This is LP, this kappa is the surface gravity, and this beta according to him is arbitrary. Okay, so for a Schwarzschild black hole, this kappa is proportional to 1 by m, and this root a is proportional to m, so that these two cancel out, and essentially you are left with beta times e to the k by 4 LP squared. So if you look at this formula given by Carl Lipp, you should say that it leads to entropy equal to area by 4 LP squared together with a log correction which is totally arbitrary, because this term beta according to him, according to Carl Lipp, is totally arbitrary. But of course he doesn't say that it's arbitrary. He takes two special cases. So let me say what the special cases are. So in one special case,
Carl Lipp refers to SU2 or U1?
no, Carl Lipp did not do loop quantum gravity. This is CFT,
Okay, see.
conformal field theory based on the near horizon symmetries of an arbitrary black hole, of a non-extremal black hole. So he considers Cardy's formula. Cardy's formula usually has only this part, exponential of area divided by 4. Well, actually not area, it has the central charge multiplied by the eigenvalue of L0 and so on. But if you put all those things, then you get area, and outside that what you get is beta. So beta according to Carl Lipp is actually arbitrary. So if you keep it arbitrary, you end up with an arbitrary log correction, which is consistent with what we get, of course, which is consistent with everything. But of course, Carlick doesn't say that it is arbitrary. Carlick says, Carlick has an expression for the central chart. This expression for the central chart is 3a by 2 pi LP squared times beta by kappa. So Carlick says that, he makes the demand that the central charge C should be a universal constant. Now, if this is to be a universal constant, okay, this kappa is proportional to 1 by m. So this essentially is proportional to m cube times beta. So if you take m cube times beta, and if you want this to be a universal constant, then beta has to be proportional to 1 by m cube, and 1 by m cube means minus 3 log m, but the area is proportional to n square, so this leads to minus 3 by 2 log a. So this is how we derived the minus 3 by 2 by assuming that the central charge C should be a universal constant. But Carlick in the same paper also suggests that there is another possibility that this beta should be proportional to kappa. This is based on arguments of periodicity. So the beta is related to a one periodicity, and the Hawking temperature is related to another periodicity. So if you relate those periodicities, then you get an alternative result which should follow from Carlick's ideas only, because Carlick himself said that beta could be proportional to kappa. So if you take that, if beta is proportional to kappa, these things will cancel out. So this, okay, in that case what will happen is that this beta will be proportional to kappa, so that will be proportional to 1 by m, and 1 by m means 1 by root a. So if you do that, it will give you minus half log a. So this also follows from Carlick, though of course he did not write all these things in his paper. He had beta arbitrary to begin with, then he chose beta to be equal to this, and he also mentioned that beta could be proportional to kappa, but if that is taken seriously, one gets minus half log a. And if beta is really taken to be arbitrary and proportional to say the classical, to some inverse power of the classical area of the horizon, then we could also get minus log k, minus 3 log k, or whatever. So the essential point is that Carlick's beta was arbitrary to begin with. Okay, so that is all I wanted to say.
Still some questions remaining?
So what is the final result? What is the finality of this?
Finally, the block function depends on the way you look at it. If you take k going to infinity, then you get one result. If you don't take k to be infinity, you get another result.
But the k is large, that is about that. Because k large because it's in the limit of Planck length,
yes.
Planck length, so it has to be large.
Yeah.
So
For reasonable black hole. No, you could in principle consider even small black holes theoretically. So for reasonable black hole of a reasonable macroscopic size, some k will be large.
Results we tested the numerical.
Ramesh, you have
Infinitely larger.
Can I just make a comment?
yes.
I don't know, you didn't go into the derivations of this so-called SU2 formalism and the E1 formalism, so perhaps this comment is a little out of order, but what we did, Ramesh, Rudra and myself, what we did try to show was that the E1 formulation is actually a gauge-fixed version of the SU2. And if you then take the constraints coming out of the gauge fixing, then the minus 3/2 log area correction results. So the one is a gauge fixed version, and one doesn't expect, if this entropy has a physical basis, it should not change when I change gauge. Okay? So if you go to a gauge where you have only a U1 invariance, it's a gauge invariance, you should still get the same physical result. And I think that has been shown.
Okay, let's thank. Now the next speaker is